David, welcome to the show.
Hey, Justin, it is super exciting to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited about our conversation. You and I connected, I don't even know how long ago it was at this point, probably about a month ago or so, but I feel like I've talked to you more than most people in that time frame where I was on your podcast and now we're recording for this one. And um, you know, when you meet good people, when I meet good people, I immediately go, okay, you need to be on the show. Like my audience needs to know you, they need to know your energy, they need to know what you're all about. So why don't we start with who is David today? And then we'll break down how you got there.
Sure, sure. And those are two very different demarcation points, by the way. So thank you for asking. So today, David Newman works with CEOs and founders to help them grow their company by building up their personal brand, which I call market eminence. And that's a combination of visibility and credibility and brand preference so that they can get the investors and the team and the talent and the media and the partners that they deserve. And we do that through some VIP days and some coaching and some other things. And so that's the story. I've written three books. The first book came out in 2013 called Do It Marketing. And I followed that up with another book about speaking. So that's called Do It Speaking. And then the latest book came out in 2023, which is called Do It Selling. And that's it in a nutshell.
No, I love it. And what you do I think is so powerful. It talks to the evolution of our world, right? Like the idea that CEOs of a company, the company can be super successful in itself, but the fact that the CEO having a profile or a brand online can help elevate that. When did you start realizing that in the world?
Such a great question. So this was just about 10 years ago. It was 2015. And I'd spent a lot of years working with, folks like you and me, people who have a personal brand that is the company brand. So speakers, consultants, business book authors. And I was at a networking event with this startup founder. He had like a real estate startup, like a crowdsourcing empty office space, like Uber, except for office space. And we started talking, and working with speakers and authors, that sometimes has a sexiness factor to people. And he says to me, he looks me square in the eye, and he says, "Well, David, what can you do for a guy like me?" And I laughed, and I said, "Nothing." And he's like, "Well, hang on, I don't think you're right about that." And he says, "I want to be out there speaking the way that you speak. I want to write a book someday, the way that you've written this book." And there was only one book at that time. And I want to build my personal brand so that it's the rocket fuel that drives this company's growth. And I'll tell you, Justin, I totally didn't get it. I was like,
Mm.
no, this isn't for you, dude. You're not in the cool kids club. You're not out there on the speaking circuit. You're not on big stages. You don't have a million listeners on your podcast or your YouTube channel. This isn't for you. And I literally pushed him away, turned him away nicely, but still. And then I thought about this conversation. You know how, like, sometimes your future really pivots on one critical conversation that just sticks in your mind?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, number one, what could I? So his direct question, what can you do for a guy like me? I was thinking about that for weeks. Like, what can you do for a guy like me? And then I was thinking, well, wait a minute. These strategies are not reserved for the special few, right? The ones that have thousands or tens of thousands of YouTube subscribers, have written best-selling books that command big fees to step on these giant stages. And it occurred to me that there's nobody, and again, this is my own internal dialogue, there's nobody better positioned to bring the professional expert, professional speaker, professional thought leader playbook to the non professional CEO who also wants that same magic secret sauce. And so taking all of the strategies, tactics, templates, and tools from what I had been doing with the speakers, consultants, and experts, moving that into the CEOs, the founders, the people who literally want to make a name for themselves so that they can grow their company at an exponential rate, that's when the idea was planted.
Yeah, and I think, obviously it's a different approach, right? Like people ask me all the time, how do I get on stages or how do you get on stages? How do you do all these things that you do? And I go, well, I have a podcast that somehow does really well and that has created these things for me. There's a lot of CEOs of organizations, there's a lot of CEOs of startups, there's a lot of people running companies. What's the difference starting with those people than what it was starting with the people that had already had the brand, that had already been on the stages? Like, how did you approach that in a sense of like, hey, you don't have an audience. How can I get you on a stage? How can I start to build that brand?
Yes, absolutely. So we look at it as a three-legged stool. So it's publishing, speaking, and podcasting. And publishing doesn't necessarily mean a book, or at least not right away, but even getting a really busy CEO, either him or her or someone on their team, to post something interesting,
Hmm.
controversial, share worthy. Post something once a week on LinkedIn. Oh no, David, we're too busy. Things move fast. We got a million things to do. Social media, I've hired a team in the Philippines and they just post, cat videos and funny memes and product announcements. Because God knows cat videos, memes, and product announcements are fascinating to everybody. Hashtag nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. So getting them to say, okay, what is different, interesting, curious, funky, weird, what's different about your business? What is surprising in your business that a lot of people on the outside don't know, but you probably take for granted? Can you take us behind the scenes? Can you show us a little bit of intimacy about what's going on in the company? Can you share a little bit of conflict or thought process as you're coming up with your next product or your next service or your next program? Can you share some experiments? Share some failed experiments, right? What were you trying to do? How did it end up? And like, what sent you back to the drawing board? How do you think differently than a lot of other people in your industry? How can you help us on the outside think about what's coming next? So what's the trend spotting? What's some of the surveys, some of the research, some of the even ear to the ground conversations that you're having with your peers? And as soon as we start to lay this out, they're like, "Oh, that would be fun. Oh, that would be easy. Oh, David, I can totally do that." They think that posting once a week on LinkedIn, they have to write this big, long, scholarly article. I'll tell you what, no one needs to write big, long, scholarly articles. That's why we have AI. So if you want to write big, long, scholarly articles, you've already lost that game because ChatGPT and Claude can do that way better and 1,000 times faster than you and I can do it. So what you're going to win on is intimacy, personality, and perspective. We want to know what you're thinking. And ideally, once this is fully fleshed out, and we'll still talk about speaking and podcasting here in a moment, but once this is fully fleshed out, your thinking should be absorbed into the ecosystem that you're trying to impact as the future of your industry. So, not about your product, not about your service, not about your company. How can you start putting some thinking out into the marketplace that is larger than you, but human, intimate, personal, and with perspective? So, that is the publishing arm. The speaking is very similar. It's like, what are the stages, both virtual and in person, that you could be having an impact with that same message? Contrarian, quirky, personal, perspective. And sometimes that's simply, hey, we're going to host a monthly webinar, but it's not going to be like all my competitors' webinars. It's going to be very specific. It's going to be a movement because you and I are right now talking on your movement just then. So we talked about, the power of the movement. And what? So a lot of these CEOs, they think they have a company brand, but they don't have the movement. They are
Mm.
not enrolling and engaging lots of people, lots of interests, lots of stakeholders in the future of their industry, in the future of their clients' success or customers' success. They're just pitching product And if you're just pitching product, well, that doesn't make for an interesting speech or webinar or live stream or
Yeah, that's a
YouTube
quick
channel.
scroll by.
Totally, totally. So then the third piece of this is what you and I are doing, right? Podcasts are a beautiful way to borrow other people's audiences. And my definition of an expert, and I wrote a blog on this more than 15 years ago, is that real experts drive a business that needs to flop. So your business needs to flop. Flop is an acronym for feature and leverage other people. Feature
Mm.
and leverage other people. So people are not tired of hearing from you. People are tired of hearing from you about you. But when I bring Justin Schenck in front of my audience, guess what? My reputation goes up. Oh my God, I hadn't heard of this guy. He looks amazing. He does these cool events. He has this amazing movement. He has this tremendously successful podcast. So, if I was always preaching about David Newman this, David Newman that, again, another scroll by, another blah, 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 not interested, not compelling, not engaging, time to move on. If I say, hey, you need to meet my friend Justin Schenck. In fact, you need to go to this amazing event that he does every year. You need to get involved in his podcast. You need to follow and subscribe. And people, now we become a pointer outer of cool things.
Mm.
Back in the 2000s, we called this curation. I don't call it curation. I call it you become the go-to person because people now start to follow you and your movement because you are a pointer outer of cool things, cool people, cool trends, cool technology, and it pays your audience to follow you and your advice and your expanding circle of influence. So many CEOs say if it's not a product announcement, if it's not a press release, if it hasn't been approved by our PR department, then I'm not talking about it. And so those people become business drones. And there's other people that become the face and the voice of their brand and exponentially grow their companies.
Yeah, there's so many directions I want to go with you, and so we're gonna go forward, and then we're gonna go back, and then we're gonna touch on a bunch of different things. But
My
first things first,
favorite.
I love the flop analogy, because I've done that, right? Like with this show, I didn't realize I was doing it. Like I just wanted to interview interesting people, but the rooms that I've gotten into, the opportunities that I've had, the stages I've spoken on, have been because I've interviewed people like a Gabby Bernstein or like a Burt Kreischer or like a whoever. And that has allowed opportunity for me. And in a sense, you're going, hey, we're going to create a stage for you that will create opportunity, which will grow your brand and so on and so forth. I also love your idea about everything's a stage, and not enough people are talking about this. There's a couple people in my sphere that kind of talk about this idea that like even a podcast interview is a stage, right? Like even if it's just right now, it's just me and you talking. At some point, this show goes out, my audience will see it. That's the stage, but we don't really approach it all the time from that perspective. When did you realize that even doing a webinar was a stage? Because I think that like the time that you said that, that was a new thought. Like where did you come up with that?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So we had the pandemic in 2020, and my wife says to me, honey, everything's going virtual. I think you need to tell people you've been all virtual since 2013. Like that was my big thing. It's like I really was. I was all virtual since about 2013, meaning I had doubled down on webinars and podcast and YouTube channel and all of these different virtual opportunities that we have in front of us. And so I would say so, and also when the Do It Speaking book came out, which was really bad timing, by the way. It came out in January of 2020.
Oh,
Now, if you read the jacket copy, friends, if you read the jacket copy on the Do It Speaking book, it says this is appropriate for speaking online and offline, including webinars, videos, live streams, YouTube channel. No one's buying a book that has speaking in the title when the entire world shuts down. No conferences, no events, no training departments, no nothing. So I doubled down on that concept because it's like, okay, you're speaking and you don't call it speaking, but I put speaking in a bigger box. So every time that you are influencing others through the power of your voice, whether that's podcast hosting, podcast guesting, the things I just mentioned, webinars, live streams, videos, YouTube channel. This is something that people do not pay enough attention to, do not understand the credibility and the intimacy of this. Because when we're having this interview, we are literally in people's inner ear. They're in their car, they're at the gym, they have their earbuds in, they're walking the dog. It's like, imagine someone whispering in your ear for 45 minutes. And then you have a sense of their personality, not only their content, but their come from. So who they are, how they speak. Would you want to go have a drink with this person? Would you want to hang out with this person and have coffee? Would you want to go to a full day event and go to the Growth Now movement in-person live event? The answer to all of those things is yes, yes, and hell yes, because you've leveraged all of these different channels for distributing the spoken word, right?
Mm.
In person, online, YouTube channel, podcast hosting, podcast guesting. That builds a level of intimacy that you cannot get with text.
Yeah, it's powerful, and I've said that for years, right? Like I think there's a statistic that your audience with a podcast will listen to on average 80% of the show. And when it's a YouTube video, I think it's like 7 seconds, or a Facebook video, it's like 7 seconds, right?
Yeah.
The intimacy of podcasting is a new level. It's really building relationships with everybody that's here with us, listening to this show. And I think that that's such a powerful thing. Now, I want to rewind to something that you said earlier, which I found fascinating. You were talking about when you sit down with these CEOs, you said, hey, let's talk about something quirky, personal. And then you said a word that people don't realize how powerful it is, which is controversial. You use the word
Yes.
controversial. A lot of people will go, well, I don't want to be controversial. I don't want to piss off half my audience, right? Then you have the flip side of that, and you have people like Elon Musk and Andy Frisella, and these people who have become controversial online, and they've exploded not only what they're doing, but their brand, their personal brand, their businesses, everything else in between. Do you ever get pushback about trying to come up with controversial things with your clients? And if so, what types of controversial things are you talking about?
Great question. The answer is only about 100% of the time do I get some level of pushback. Only about 100%. The rest of the time, it's totally fine. They totally get it. So I want to draw a distinction between arbitrary controversy versus intentional controversy. So whether you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, red, blue, purple, I never recommend that you get political as a B2B CEO type of person.
Yeah.
You can have political views. I recommend that you keep those to yourself and you vote and you donate and you volunteer accordingly. However, every company, every CEO has things that they believe about their industry, things that if you ask them in casual conversation, you would tap into this deep well of emotion and passion and energy. So, for example, I had a cryptocurrency guy on my show a couple of weeks ago, and he was so passionate that cryptocurrency has been misunderstood. It has been denigrated as fake, as risky, as it's not real money. And he is on a mission to democratize and popularize cryptocurrency. So you and I invest in cryptocurrency as fast as we would in Tesla or Microsoft or Google. So you have to look at the world through the lens of what's right with the world, what's wrong with the world. What are some myths that are out there about your industry, about your type of product, about your type of service? How can you democratize and popularize the movement that makes your company look like the hero in the story? So think about things that you are for, things that you are against. Think about sacred cows that need to be slaughtered and chopped up into hamburger, and think about genuine new and useful insights that most people do not know about your business, do not know about your industry, and it would surprise them or delight them, or maybe even shock them to find out what the real story is.
Hmm.
So if you're someone who, you know, let's say you have some new AI cold calling software. And so you are totally against this concept that cold calling is dead, cold calling is stupid, cold calling is ineffective. By the way, cold calling is dead, cold calling is stupid, and cold calling is ineffective, according to David Newman. But I get pushback on that. I talk to oh no, we've built our entire business on cold calling. We have a whole call center. We have 100 reps making 1,000 calls a day. Okay, but so that's the exception that proves the rule. Or you are not my client, right? You are not my audience. Because what I believe and what I know to be true and what I teach and preach and have observed in my life and in my business is what you're saying is a total crock of crap. So I think there's the way we overcome this is with the following phrase, Justin. I share this with CEOs, and then sometimes their face lights up and the resolve melts away a little bit against this concept of being controversial. The saying is this: if you don't risk turning some people off, you will never turn anybody on. And if you
Hmm.
do this carefully and strategically, the only people you're going to turn off are people that would never do business with you anyway, or you wouldn't want them to, because they would be terrible clients, terrible customers. They would fight and argue and nitpick every moment that they were doing business with you. And it's these kind of people that is very important to repel. So, just like you want to be attractive to a very clearly defined set of partners, clients, prospects, investors, talent, media, you want to be repulsive. You literally want to repel people that do not match that DNA that you and your company have.
Yeah, and I love that concept. And it's funny, like I don't get controversial online really about much of anything. Maybe a couple of hot takes about podcasting and how it's underutilized. But I will say this: I posted a reel, had nothing to do with business. It was my stepdaughter, who I refer to as my bonus daughter, in a Halloween parade at her school a couple of years ago when she was still young enough to have Halloween parades, and she refused to break character. So in the video, she was like a dead doll or whatever, and she was like she did a weird wave to us and whatever. And I posted the video and I put a voiceover on it because this is when voiceovers were popular in Reels. And it said, when your bonus daughter refuses to break character in her school Halloween parade. That's all it was.
Yeah.
People started arguing in the comments about like, what's a bonus daughter? Could you imagine not liking your kid so much you call him a bonus kid? Like all these people started arguing. 7.3 million views on Facebook. 180,000 views on TikTok. And so of course I'm like the one thing that blows up has nothing to do with like what I do, but it is that sense of like it automatically showed me the people that I have no interest in connecting with, right? And so they wouldn't be the people who would come to my events. They wouldn't be the people that I want as clients. They wouldn't be any of those people just because they take something so minute and they make it an argument, even though it's a term of endearment, right? And I followed that up
Yes.
with a reel that it was a term of endearment, and that did well too. But it was a fascinating kind of play on the human experience of like how people react to things, like how much play goes into like when you're building this brand, like how much play goes into finding out what works and what doesn't. Like what's the success rate versus kill rate once you find your sweet spot.
I think some of the early wins, some of the quick wins are going to be really obvious. So think of the Chick-fil-A campaign with the cows.
Yeah.
Is it smart for Chick-fil-A to make fun of cows and beef? Yes. Is it fun for Chick-fil-A to be anti-hamburger? Yes. They serve chicken. That's their business. So they can ride that pony forever. Now, is that the only thing that's going to be controversial or interesting or funny or will stop the scroll? No, but that's a great example. Like, okay, start with you're a chicken company. Let's make fun of cows. Let's make fun of people who eat hamburger all the time. Yeah, hey, you know what? Monday's chicken day, also because they're closed on Sunday, right? So, oh, a fast food place, you can't be closed on Sunday. The hell we can. Of course we can close on Sunday. You want to eat fast food on Sunday? Go somewhere else. You're not coming to Chick-fil-A. So these are just a couple of quick examples. Now, once you start thinking about Who is the client that you really want to attract, or the investor, or the partner, or the media? And then who are the ones that you want to repel? And then figure out what can you say that is 100% safe. The reason it's 100% safe, it's only going to attract the people that you want, and it's only going to repel the people that you've decided in advance you do not want. So, people, and this is a funny thing with social media too, and your experience that you just shared is so illustrative of this point. The lowest of humanity, if you want to see the lowest of humanity, go to the internet comments. Internet comments is where humanity goes to die. So all of those trolls, all of those haters, there's a business, there's an offline version of that, which is people who do not believe what you believe, do not understand what you stand for or why you stand for it, and they will never ever be a customer. Will they be a critic? Hell yes. Will they be a complainer? The loudest ever. Will they put campaigns out with hashtags about, David Newman sucks and David Newman's a criminal and David Newman's a scumbag? Sure. But it's funny. I had a client, this was years ago. I had a client from New Orleans who's was very close to his granddad, and he's about my age, and the granddad had passed away many, many years ago. So he said, as in this great Cajun accent, as my grandpappy always told me, son, you ain't nobody till somebody hates your guts. And I said to him, I think I've arrived. I think I have arrived. Because people either love me or hate me, but they do that based on who I am, what I stand for, what I believe, what I teach, what I preach, how I treat my clients, all of these different DNA markers. So, literally, if you're not willing to turn some people off, you will never turn anybody on.
Yeah, and I have two moments in my podcast career that really stand out. Pretty early on, I got an email from somebody who said sent me an email. I don't even know how he got my email address, and just said, "Your show is terrible. I would never hire you as a coach. You have no idea what you're talking about." So that was like the first like, and I remember I read it like I woke up in the morning and I looked at my phone. I know you're not supposed to look at your phone in the bed, but this was a long time ago. And I looked at my emails and I read this email and I typed a reply. I was like, oh, this guy, blah, blah, blah. And then I deleted it all. I felt good just typing it out, right? So I didn't even reply. And then the second one is I have I have a couple 1-star reviews on my show for people who don't like me, but there was one that was written. So 1-star review, they wrote a review and it said, "Man, they're giving everybody microphones these days." And I realized like this is the sense of like I'm showing up as my authentic self and I'm building something that I believe in. And along the way, you're gonna have people that don't like you, that are jealous, that are whatever, wherever they're coming from, right?
Yeah.
They spew this hate, and you kind of got to roll with the punches when that happens, right? And I've had a couple weird comments on social media and so on and so forth, but it's just such a fascinating thing when you go out there and it's not necessarily even being what we're talking about isn't really about being controversial. It's about just being yourself and sharing your
Yes.
thoughts and your ideas. And along the way, you're going to rub people the wrong way. But there's so much power in being that person, right?
Yeah.
And being the person who can openly share about how they feel about things, even if 30% of the population may not agree with you or whatever the number may be. And
Yes.
I think that's powerful. So what would you say to somebody listening to this right now who's like, I get what they're saying, and I've got some hot takes that I'd love to share, but it might upset some people. What would you say to them to push them over the edge, to post that thought, to post their theory?
Justin, this really comes down to decommoditization, right? There's a lot of people that are competing in every imaginable industry. You want to hire a digital marketing agency? Everyone's an award-winning digital marketing agency. You want to hire, a coach? There's a million make more money, have more freedom coaches. You want to launch a podcast? You want to hire a podcast guru? There's a million podcast gurus. So if everyone looks the same, then we make the decision on price. The people that have true market eminence, and again, my definition of market eminence is that they're visible, they're credible, and people prefer to do business with them. Market eminence is based on point of view, attitude, and perspective. If you agree with their perspective, You agree with their point of view. You're signing on to their lens of the universe when it comes to what you're looking to accomplish, what problem you're looking to solve, or what outcome you're looking to create. Immediately, all the other competition falls away. All the other competition just becomes irrelevant because what they're saying to themselves in their heart, more so than in their mind, they say, oh my gosh, I found my guy. I found my company. I found the company that, number one, sees me because I agree with you, you agree with me. So they see me, they get me, and I want to do business with them. Right. So now we've flipped the decommoditization switch to say, well, you can go to any of these other companies that do something similar to what we do, or you can come to the original. You can come to the outspoken. You can come to the loud and the proud. You can come to where you know that we are going to resonate with your beliefs and your values and your worldview because we just showed you our beliefs and our values and our worldview. And if you can do that, the marketplace is yours for the taking because 95% of your competitors are scared as hell to do what you and I are just talking about.
Yeah, I love it. So I want to shift gears a little bit, talk about your most recent book, Do It Selling. For so many people, selling is a gross word, right? They think dirty car salesman, they think somebody who's trying to trick you into doing something. Why did you decide to go from the marketing to the speaking and then decide to tackle the controversial topic of selling? Like, what made you shift into that gear? Because guess what? Everybody's selling, and we're all selling all the time. Whether you're in business or
Yes.
not, we're all selling. What made you want to tackle that hurdle?
So the logical progression is most people, especially entrepreneurs, mid-market companies, smaller firms, 10, 20, 50 million dollars, uh, the first thing they want to tackle when they're looking to grow is they think they have a marketing problem. And so when I wrote the Do It Marketing book, it was about 30% sales, kind of hiding in there anyway.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like you sell people what they want and then give them what they need, kind of sneak that in so that they get what they want on the other end anyway. So that was the first book. Then the speaking book came because speaking is the ultimate one to many marketing strategy and the ultimate one to many sales platform. All the different ways that we just talked about speaking, putting speaking in that bigger box. So once you have the marketing dialed in, once you've done some form of speaking with your personality and your persona, uh, now you realize, okay, we actually have a sales problem. We thought it was a marketing problem. We thought it was a lead gen problem or a visibility problem. Not enough people know about what we do. We're so awesome. If only more people knew about what we do. Your marketing is dialed in, your speaking strategy is locked in. A lot of people know what you do, and the sales aren't coming in. So, branding and marketing problems can sometimes be sales problems in disguise.
Mm.
And it's so funny what you said about most people hate selling. The first paragraph of the introduction is you are holding the sales book for people who hate sales.
Mm.
So you are
I
not a
love it.
professional salesperson. You're a founder, you're a CEO, you're an entrepreneur, you're someone who started this business because you love the work of the work. You don't love selling the work. In fact, maybe selling the work didn't even occur to you until it's like, oh, someone's going to have to sell this amazing new widget or technology that we've built. So a lot of founders, of course, get stuck in founder-led sales, and they're like, "Oh my God, how soon can I get out of this? How soon can I hire a sales team?" If you actually enjoyed the sales process, you could stay in founder-led sales a lot longer and have a lot more success. So it's literally the sales book for people who hate sales. And it's based on offering value and inviting engagement and being very, very intentional about opening yourself up to helping and giving before pitching and selling. This is one of the key principles. And one of the big surprising elements when people read the book is, oh, I thought this would be like a hardcore closing and 100 cold calls a day, spamming people on LinkedIn, batch and blast a whole bunch of strangers. And it's not that. It's absolutely the opposite of that. So the way that I reframe sales is whatever the business of the business is. Imagine that every prospect you're talking to, they're already sold. They're already in. So now what do you do with orientation, onboarding, helping them get comfortable? So you simply move that line, move that demarcation line between prospect and customer, move it all the way to the beginning, and every prospect you talk to, assume they're already bought in. Assume they're already bought in. So be curious, be helpful, be radically generous, be radically relevant, steer the conversation based on curiosity, not based on hitting them over the head with a sales hammer. And one of the punchlines early in the book is the more that you treat prospects like customers, the more customers you will get because
Mm.
people pick up on that vibration. They pick up on that come from.
Yeah, no, I love that approach. And like for me, it's always been, I've been in sales since I was 19. I didn't go to college. Like sales was the route that I took to climb corporate ladders to then build a business. And I've done all the sales trainings, right? Everything from find the pain points to objection cycles to close again to all that nonsense. And for me, close or selling has always been relationship building, right? Like I don't get on a call to sell somebody. I get on a call to find out more about them, to build that relationship. And I
Yes.
love that vibrational idea of like they're already a customer, right? They're already locked in. They already want to be a part of this. And I think what that does internally for most people is like it makes just even having that call or that interaction, it makes it easier, right? Like you're no longer on edge. Like, hey, you're already here, right? Like you're already a customer. This is how we're supporting you. And I think that that's such a fascinating way to talk about it. And I'm actually going to get that book because I'm fascinated to see the deep dive you do and how you really go about it beyond just what you said. I think it's fascinating. So I want to ask you a question that I ask every single person on the show. I've had the honor over the last 9 years to sit down with some of the world's most successful people. And you have created success multiple times over in your lifetime, recreating yourself, creating that success again, going on and on. So I want to ask you this question. It's a two-part question. The first part is, what is your definition of success? And the second part is, what are three things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
My definition of success is really about my personal happiness, which sounds either incredibly selfish or incredibly naive, but that's okay. So, success to me is literally spending time with people I love, doing activities that I really enjoy and I feel I'm really, really great at, and having the freedom and the flexibility to take off on a Tuesday morning, go out, have coffee with my wife, have lunch with our kids who live nearby, uh, you know, blow off steam playing retro video games in my ultra video game retro lounge in my basement,
I'm
fire
coming
up some.
over.
I tell you,
I,
you should. You
I got to
should.
check it out.
We got Space Invaders, asteroids, Pac-Man, the whole deal. Everyone's down there.
I love it.
And so I check in on a daily basis with my personal happiness. And if something is misaligned or feels funky or doesn't feel good, I have a little introspective exercise. So I'll tell you the three strategies that ensure this. Number one is I keep a self journal. Self journal is a really great format. It's morning gratitude, three big goals for the day. Put in your schedule. You do an evening gratitude, lessons learned, and then you sort of close off the day. And if you want to get ready for the next day, you can, but it takes 10 minutes. It is super, super simple. There's lots of these different journals out there that you can get, but that has been a real anchor in a daily reflection of what I've done, how I feel, my mood, my happiness, all of those things. I would say the second practice is just getting outside the office. When I'm feeling down, I'm feeling ground down, I'm feeling drained, my energy is down. I was like, I haven't been out of the office in like 4 days. And so it's this again, it's gonna sound simple and almost ridiculous. I get in my car and I go to the grocery store and we need a couple things, but I'm also shopping around like what's new in the soda aisle? What's new, what new breakfast cereals are there? And I come home and I have a small handful of things. And my wife says to me, honey, how was the store? I said, it is amazing. I got to get out more. That was a fantastic trip to the store. So literally, it's like we can be, zeroed in right here on the computer, in front of email, in front of social, in front of clients. If you need to step away from the computer, you need to go back out into the sunshine, into the marketplace, play with the dog outside, go for a walk around the block, whatever you need to do, you will come back, even if it's only 10 minutes, you will come back refreshed and re-energized and ready to go. It's this constant sort of single modality that we're in that really, I think, grinds down the brain cells. And then the last thing, which again, I'm trying to do a better job of always, is hydration. Hydration, hydration, hydration. My water bottle is right here. It had to be within arm's reach. So that's very important. Uh, Hydration, again, it's just like when you're grinding away, you're like, something's wrong. It's like, when's the last time I had water? Oh, 6 hours ago. Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. So those simple things keep me grounded, keep me focused, keep me happy, and that's my definition of success.
I love it. You may be the first person that mentioned hydration. And I've asked that question not at every episode, but in most of my episodes. I don't
Yeah.
remember when, however many years in I started. But I'll say this. So I've drank out of this a couple times. So I woke up this morning with some sort of cold and I'm fighting back a cough. If nobody can tell during this, I had no voice at one point today. And I'm just glad I've recovered for this conversation. But I have this water bottle next to me all day and I drink 4 of these, which makes it a gallon. Why do
Yes.
I not drink from this during interviews? Because I look really weird drinking from the straw. So we don't want that on videos, and so I switch out to a different water bottle in case I need it during an interview. But I think it's key, right? Like when you feel foggy, when you feel tired, when you feel drained. Oh, it's because I haven't drank water in a while, and it's so cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah.
And it's how we keep our youthful looks, right? You got to stay hydrated, and that pushes you forward. So it's key, man. So I love that answer. So I want to ask you another question because you've created so much content. You've got 3 books, you've got a podcast, you've got all this stuff out there. But I want you to picture yourself at the end of your life, and I want you to imagine that all that stuff doesn't exist anymore. So that content does not exist anymore. It's gone off the face of the planet, and you can only be remembered for one sentence. What would you want that sentence to be?
Easy. It's not even a sentence, it's 3 words. The 3 words are action eliminates fear.
Mm. That's powerful. That's really, really powerful. I like that answer. So I wrap up every single interview with the same question. But before we get there, how do people get more information from you? How do they work with you? What's all the good stuff?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, we have a whole bunch of resources, videos, webinars, downloads, ebooks, articles. Go to doitmarketing.com/hello. Like hello, David Newman, but it's doitmarketing.com/hello. There's no opt-in. This is all ungated, free. I want you to enjoy.
Wow.
I want you to learn. I want you to benefit from that. And if I can be helpful, there's ways to contact me on the website. There's a blog also there. There are all kinds of resources and book bonuses and all kinds of good stuff. But that's the best place to start is doitmarketing.com/hello.
And no gatekeeping, no collection of an email, no like
Nope.
that's also a first on this podcast. That's incredible. So like just the wealth of knowledge that I've gotten from you in the last 45 minutes talking with you about what you do and how you help people. I imagine the depths that you go into in all those videos and webinars and printouts. And I think that people should 100% go check that out. And then also, I'm giving a shout out right now during this conversation. You're coming to Growth Now Summit Live. You will be there. You got your ticket after we talked for the first time. And I'm so excited to have you in the room because I mentioned to you before we even hit record, like this room is filled with incredible people like you who are willing to just pour into others, want to be part of a community, want to meet new people. And it's not one of those come and hand out your business cards, come and build a relationship and see where that goes. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And so, guys, if you want to come hang out with David, go to growthnowsummit.com. You can use the code podcast for 10% off. And would love to hang out with you there. Actually, as of the release of this episode, they have 1 week to get tickets. So it'll be a week afterwards. Ticket sales get shut down because I have to get the list over to the venue. So they'll have 1 week. But Go check it out. Come hang out with David and I. I appreciate you allowing me to shout that out really quick during our
Oh my
conversation.
gosh. People need to come. People need to be there. Get your butt to Westchester, PA. Get the ticket. Don't even think about it. Just get the ticket. It's going to be an amazing. I mean, I know some of these people already that I'm coming to meet for the first time in 3D. You have curated an amazing, amazing collection of humans.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And so, like I said, I wrap up every single interview with the same question. Since the show is called The Growth Now Movement, that question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
I'm going to get in trouble for this answer, but it's marrying the right woman. Marrying the
Mm.
right woman affected every single decision, personal, professional, business, especially for an entrepreneur. It is critically, critically important that your partner, even if they're not involved in the business, that your partner believes in you and promotes you and picks you up and dusts you off 1,000 times when you have fallen down 999.
I'm going to double down on that sentiment. I've also married the perfect person who supports me wholeheartedly. She came to we had started dating a couple of months before my first ever event in 2019, and she came and supported. And then she was on the stage in 2022 on a panel, and now she'll be sitting front row in 2025. And just feel blessed to have a wife that would do that for me, to take the time out to be a part of it. We've also done some business stuff together. We own some properties. We've hosted retreats together. But there's so much power, like you said, especially as an entrepreneur, to find the right partner who's supportive, but also has their own drive, their own determination, has their own
Yes.
dreams. That's so. I feel like we could have a whole conversation about a whole entire episode about that. But absolutely love it, man. David, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey and your wisdom with my audience, man. This has been amazing. Thank you.
My pleasure, Justin. Thank you.